I want to focus on these three. Georgia at Bama in September, Lugs. Georgia at Texas, which is delicious, in October. And Georgia at Ole Miss in November. Do they sweep? Do they win 2 of 3? Or do they win 1 of 3?
I would be more prone to say that they sweep. But when I say that, you mentioned that Ole Miss game on there. That's week 11. Now there's a lot that can happen to your football team, to your roster. If you have a key injury here or there, God forbid one happens at the quarterback position. Now everything's off the table, right? Because your entire forecast of what people thought going in is no longer reality. I got to be honest with you, though. You mentioned the game at Alabama and then the game at Texas. But the 2 games wedged in between there, I think, are sneaky good games and sneaky dangerous, with Auburn and Mississippi State wedged in between road contests at Alabama and at Texas before they get to their bye. The one thing I like about Georgia's schedule is I love where their bye weeks fall. I think that they're going to get 2 nice little mid-season rests, get themselves healthy, get those fresh legs back under them. But they're the better team, in my opinion, in all of the road contests of the games that they're playing.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. DeBoer, I think people are sleeping on Alabama with Saban leaving.
I do too.
I just do. And by the way, that's a credit to Nick Saban. He left a healthy program to DeBoer, and then DeBoer is really good at what he does. And they're just gonna, they were, good grief, they were a struggle last year on offense. They're going to be so much better. But staying with Georgia real quick, do you think that how would you they're talking about this being the best offensive line they've had since Kirby's been there. Now, they've had some ferocious defenses. How would you compare this roster talent-wise to some of the other big-time teams Kirby's had since he's been there?
Well, it's hard. I think it's hard to compare any football team, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, with that back-to-back group that is now basically the entire Philadelphia Eagle defense, that back-to-back group that the Georgia Bulldogs had on defense. I mean, that is so rare to have that caliber of player too deep at all 3 levels for multiple years. I don't know if it's fair to compare any team that he's had to those back-to-back defensive football teams. But I'll say this, which I think is interesting, is I think they've got a really good returning nucleus, obviously not just in the offensive line, not just obviously a quarterback. But this might be one of the better incoming freshman impact groups that Georgia has had to blend in with the returners. Guys like Ellis Robinson, who was our number 1 ranked corner in last year's class, KJ Bolden, who's also going to be in the safety rotation on the defensive side of things. This is a really, really talented group. DeMello Jones is another corner, really like him. This is, in my opinion, the best blend maybe that Georgia's had of upperclassmen experienced talent and incoming true freshmen that I think can also play and add something to the roster early.
Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. So you have Georgia as the most talented roster in college football this year, right?
I think so. I think top to bottom they are. I do think that Ohio State is in the discussion top to bottom with the additions that they made to their roster on top of what they were returning. I'll tell you right now, I had them in the Cotton Bowl against Missouri. Now, it was a game they lost, but they didn't lose the game because of who they are on defense. They lost the game because of what happened to them at quarterback. But that returning group of defensive players in their front 7 and at corner is as good as anybody in the country. I mean, they are really, really talented.
They're that good?
And so They are that good.
Wow.
They are that good, especially up front on the defensive front. And then now you're going to add a Caleb Downs to the mix. So I think they're in the discussion. But, yeah, I would give the nod to Georgia.